Hi everybody, this is Diane. It is Sunday afternoon and I've been working on some ephemera, some of which I will be using in, I don't have it right here, my, here it is, this little golden book journal that I'm going to keep for myself. It's got a shabby chic feel to it because that's one of my favorite looks, and the blues and the turquoise color. So I was watching a YouTube channel called Paper Inspirations, and I will link her channel below. I believe she's from Australia or New Zealand. That's what she sounds like. And she has a series from, I think from the last half of 2019, of things you can make taking a 12 by 12 inch paper and using the whole thing. And she's the one that did these, I think she did these in another pocket that I recently made. But that was a different series. I think that's a newer series. So this series is using 12 by 12 inch papers or something like that. But I will link her channel below. So I did two of the projects. So these three pieces are from one 12 by 12 sheet, and all of these are from another 12 by 12 sheet. So I am not going to do the entire construction of everything because that would take too long. I just wanted to, and I'm going to link her channel so that you can find these videos. Maybe I'll link these two videos, in fact. But I just want to show you what I've been making, and I will cut some for you. She talks about the papers, so I won't go into great detail, but she talks about the type of papers to use. She used double-sided paper. Here it is. I'm not going to use this because I'm going to use this in a project. I don't know what yet, but I don't want to just take a page out of it and use it. But she talked about using pages that have multiple designs on them like this, so that as you cut it into the smaller pieces, each piece is going to look different and be very interesting. So that would be fun. But she did talk about not using pages that are very, very directional. So this has words on it, which of course would be directional, but the words are so tiny that I wouldn't even worry about it. I wouldn't worry about that being upside down or sideways. Something like this would be gorgeous because of all the different colors, and there's some texture in it that would create some diversity. But this paper pad is too precious to me to cut up for a project like this. So I chose these, and these aren't even double-sided. These are single-sided. I wanted to see how much of the backside you're going to see when these are put together, and if it's worth using a double-sided paper. So you can decide that for yourself, but as you see mine. But I have these, and these are pretty, they don't have a big variety of different designs and patterns and textures. So they're small patterns, but they're not super directional, so they're going to work great. This is just a damask pattern. So that's pretty, once you make all of the pieces out of something like this, you could go to town decorating it. I'm not going to do any decorating. She didn't do any decorating either. She said she was going to just put these in her stash, and as she found a journal to use them in, then she would add the decorations to suit the journal. So that's a good idea. So I'm going to cut these two projects up with these two pages because these will go with the colors that I'm using in my journal, and then I can pull elements that I'm making for my journal out of these. So let's start with the one that has the fewest items in it. As I watched the videos, I made little notes with measurements and stuff. So I need to find what I did with my paper cutter. Here it is. So we're going to make these three pieces. It's actually four pieces because it has this little piece right here, which would be nice if this was in contrast. So I'm going to make, if I make it with this, then I could swap, I could put this band on this and put this band on this card. I think I like it with green on green, so I'm going to make this project out of this. So the first thing to do, if you have a paper pad that has a branding strip on it, cut that off so that your page is 12 by 12. The branding strip makes it, I think, 12.5 by 12. And sometimes the branding strip has a pattern on it, at least on one side, that you could actually use that to embellish some of these with. So you could actually even use the branding strip. So for this particular page, I'm going to cut it in half. So 6 inches right down the middle. So you can set this aside and we'll just concentrate on this one. And we're going to cut it in half again, just turn it to the long side and cut it 6 inches again. So you have 2 6 by 6 inch pieces. Yeah, I'm just checking my paper to make sure I did that right. First thing we're going to make is this double pocket. I'm going to get my scoreboard or whatever you use to score, and I'm going to cut this, or not cut it, I'm going to score it at 3 inches. So again, right down the middle. And then I'm going to turn it a quarter of a turn so my score line is going horizontally now, and I'm going to score at 3 inches again, but I'm only going to go to the score line, so I'm only going to go halfway down. Okay. Now I'm going to, there's a line here and a line here. Perhaps you can see it better on the white side. I am going to cut a very thin strip on either side of that short score mark, right to that score mark. And now I'm going to cut on the other side of it. So the score mark is in the middle of this little strip that I'm cutting. And then I will just cut this off. That's a piece you can discard. Didn't cut it very straight. Looks like it's curving down. Excuse me. And then when you fold it, you have it like this. Okay. So these are going to be 2 little pockets. And I'm going to take my circle punch. I think I've buried it. Or maybe I put it away where it doesn't belong. And I'm just going to cut a little notch in each of these little flaps. So now I have white spaces showing. So if you were using double-sided paper, this is all you would be seeing of the back side of it. If you have a double-sided paper and you don't care for the reverse side, that would be great. You would just get a little glimpse of it here. But I just inked all the way around, and these edges too, and I inked the back before I sewed them down. So you can either glue these pieces down just at the side and the bottom, and this bottom, and leave this part open, or you can sew all the way around here and all the way around here, and then you have a tag or a card. Let me see, I've got these ready cut tags here. Let's see what they look like with a tag inserted. Sometimes I go tag crazy with my Cricut, cut different sizes and different colors and different shapes. Then I have a stash for a long time. So you probably would want to cut that off, make it a little bit shorter like that. So, and then of course on this it doesn't have a very bold pattern, so I would probably add some kind of embellishment to it. Once it's ready to go in a journal, once I know what journal it's going to go in, I would embellish it. This does have a pretty pattern on it, so I might not want to add anything else to it. It just depends on the journal. So that's a pretty easy one. Now the other 6x6 piece that we have, we are going to, again, put it on the scoreboard. If it has any directional pattern you want to take it, like this would be up and down, turn it sideways, and then score it at 1 1/4 inches. So there's 1, there's a quarter. I'm going to score it at 1 1/4 inches. And the up and down way, I'll score it at 3 again, because it will be folded in the middle. I didn't show you what we were making. We're making this. This part, this band, is going to come off of the other 6x12 sheet. This is what we're doing with the 6x6. It's just going to be a little booklet with little pockets inside, and you can tuck a card or some ephemera in there. And because it is white, I decided to cut some vintage music paper and just I glued that to the middle, and then I sewed around both sides of the card to sew the paper down. But if you're using double-sided paper, if it's sturdy enough, you don't have to add anything to the inside. So we have that, and we fold this up, and then we need it to have this little gap here so that it folds nicely. This would be kind of bunchy if I did it like this, and it makes this bubble. So we just cut a triangle down here right up to the fold line, and then I like a rounded corner, so I just took my scissors and rounded it. And again, I inked all the way around it, all the way around these edges and these edges. And I will add some more music paper to this because I really like the way that looks. And I have this little folder. So that is the two pieces from one of the 6x12 pieces of cardstock. Now I need to make the little band for this piece. So I'm going to take my other 12x6 piece, and I'm going to cut 1 1/2 inches off of the bottom of it. So it'll be 1 1/2 by 6 inches. And let me see, this is about 1 inch here and here. I made a mistake the first time and I folded it in the middle, and then I thought that's not how it goes. So then I just folded these ends to meet the middle, not quite meet the middle like that. So I didn't do any measuring, but this part measures about 1 inch. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to score it here where it says 5 inches because this is a 6-inch piece. So 5 inches, and then turn it over and do it at 5 inches again. So we have, is that right? No, that is too short. Let me measure that again. 1 1/2. I probably said 1 1/2 and then I did it at 1. So 4 1/2 inches. Turn it over, and 4 1/2 inches again. Sorry about my bracelet. I should just take it off. Let me make sure this is gonna fit around it. No. Okay, it does, but it's kind of tight. I had to kind of refold here. So you might want to make these flaps just a tiny bit smaller, so that they don't meet so close in the middle, but more so that they fit around this better. You don't want it too tight or too loose. I don't know if she gave a measurement on how to fold this thing. Sometimes she just said she was eyeballing stuff. And then I just took it and put the two ends together. She had something that she used to cut the tag ends. And just cut it like you're cutting a shipping tag, like cutting a cardstock into a tag shape. So just angle one side and then take the piece that came off, move it over here so you're matching sides. And I added eyelets and then some string. I inked everything, including the inside. But if you're using double-sided paper, this is where it will show up. So I think it would be worth using double-sided paper for this project because it's going to show a lot more on this piece and this piece. And you wouldn't have to add that in there. So anyway, this now is going to go here. That looks better. And then this piece will go here. So she had a piece that had a variety of colors and patterns on it. So the piece that she cut off and made this, it did contrast with the booklet. So just so you know that. But they look better like that, don't they? So that one is done. And we have one more piece to make with this, and it is this remaining piece, which is 6 inches now by is it 9.5? Because we cut off 10.5. We cut off 1.5 inches from this one to make that little band. So it's 10.5 inches now by 6 inches. She did give measurements for folding this one. So turn it sideways and score it at 2 5/8. So there's 2.5. So there's 2 5/8. Remember, 2.5 is 2 4/8. So you just go up one more notch to hit 2 5/8. And then turn it over and do 3.5 inches. And then turn it the long way down and score at 1 1/4 again. So we are making something like this. 1 1/4. So now we have these folds and this fold at the bottom. And again, we want it to be angled. So what I did this time was to actually fold it and then cut it, just angle it. And you end up like that. And you don't need to cut too much. On this one, I cut it more than I should have. So this is angled too much and it makes this pocket a lot narrower than it needs to be, because you'll probably want to glue these sides down. We'll talk more about that when I get there. So just be careful that you're not angling it too much. It just needs to be able to fold easily. Let's see if I did better. Yes, that is better. And you can do all the inking, glue some paper down here if you want to, or if you have double-sided paper, then you've already got a pretty side. So the next thing you want to do is, I rounded my corners, if you want to do that, and do the inking. And I I glued these two edges down here and here. And then I left these open and glued this down and this down. And you notice that this flap is quite a bit shorter than this one so that they can overlap. And then after you sew around it, you can add an eyelet here and some seam binding. And she left a longish tail. I think her tail wasn't this long, but I don't know how she tied it. I'll have to go back and watch it again, because she just looped it through like we do at the top of a tag, and then just wrap it around, wrap the long one around twice, and then you can tie this with the tail that you left. So I left the tail, I think, longer than she did so that I could tie a bow. And I know she tied a bow, but I don't think her tail was as long as the one I left. But anyway, you do what you want. So those are 3 pieces made from one piece of 12 by 12 paper, and we used the entire sheet. The other one has more pieces, but they're pretty simple. So the first thing you do is take your 12 by 12 paper and cut off 2.5 inches. And then cut a 5-inch piece off of that. So you're left with a 5-inch and a 7-inch. What she did was cut this in half. So you have two 3.5 inch pieces. But you could do what you want to. Once you have it cut into this shape, this strip, cut it at 6 inches and have 2 equal tags, or whatever you want to do. For this piece that we have left, the 7-inch piece, she cut off 1/2 inch, so it's going to be 2 inches. And she made a paper ruffle out of this little 1/2 inch strip. You don't have to do that. You can, like I said, cut the size of tags you want with this 2.5 inch piece. And so now with this 2-inch piece, I'm going to cut 3.5 inches, and I have 2 tags the same size. And then we would angle cut them and ink them, and punch a hole and put an eyelet in, ink this, and just take it and pleat it. Just pleat. So it makes it considerably smaller, and then sew or glue it. I used a zigzag stitch and sewed it. So I'm not going to do any more on these on camera. I will just show you because they're so simple. These are my tags. Aren't they pretty? That beautiful rose colored background, and I used these enforcements that I had already inked, and they match perfectly. I glued these because they're white. I glued them to this coffee dyed parchment or glassine craft paper and just sewed around them. So when they're ready to go into a journal, I will just add whatever fiber I want to, or ribbon or something. And this is the little fabric ribbon or fabric ruffle that I can just use as an embellishment on anything. So that's what the 2.5 inch strip made. Next, we have this piece, which is 9 by 9. No, wait. Not yet. We're going to, this piece is 12 by 9.5. Okay? So I'm going to turn it this way, and I'm going to cut 3 inches. So it will be 3 inches by 9.5. Let me make sure it's 9.5, and it is. And I'm going to cut that in half, so 4 3/4. And again, you could cut these pieces any size you want. These are just going to be identical little pockets that are super, super easy. I put them together so I could just thumb punch them at the same time. I'm going to go off center just because I like to do that. And I am going to, she didn't do this, but I like to do this. Just shallow out that thumb pull. And it's not very straight, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. And then ink around it, and you have two beautiful pockets that you can embellish. You could add lace to it. These are the ones that I did. Uh-oh. Maybe I cut it bigger than 3 inches. I did. I cut it at 3.5, which is going to make my last piece different size, but that's okay. What she did was cut them at 3 inches, not 3.5. But I'm going to make it work. So they're pretty much done. So now I have all of these pieces are going to be affected by the mistake that I just made, but that's okay because I think this piece is a little bit tall, so we'll make this shorter, and that's fine. And this piece is the other piece that will be affected, and we can make this shorter, just make a smaller pocket. So we're going to make it work. So now we have this piece, which is 9 by 9.5, where it should be, but this piece is 9.5 by 8.5 because I cut off 1/2 inch too much. And I'm going to take the 9.5 inch side. So this right here is 9.5 inches, and I'm going to cut it at 4.5. So I have 4.5 and 5 inches. I'm going to set the 5-inch piece aside. So this piece right here is going to become this, and this, and this, and these. So the only thing I'm going to change is making this 1/2 inch smaller, and that will be fine with me. So to get this angled cut, she said to measure, gotta read my writing here, 2.5 inches down on whichever side you want. Since I have this one going angled this way, I'm going to angle this one this way. So I'm going to make my cut, I'm going to make my mark at 1.5 inches on this side. 2.5 inches, sorry. 2.5 inches. And then I will take my ruler and go from this corner to this mark and draw a line. And I'm going to cut this off. And this will be a corner tuck, so it can go this way or it can go that way on the page. And all I did was ink around it, and I sewed some lace on it, and then that we have a little corner tuck. So that one's done. Now for this, I'm going to cut, this was 6 inches, so I'm going to make it 5.5 inches. So there's this pocket, and again, I will just ink around it and add some lace. You can add whatever trim you want. You could add whatever embellishment you want on it, and that will be an angled pocket. And that's done. And then I have this piece left, and I'm going to cut off 1 inch off the long side. So we have two pieces like that, and then I'm going to cut this roughly in half. It doesn't have to be. You could make one longer and one smaller. And here's what I did with them. I rounded the corners. I guess she called this a cluster, and she added a little bit of die cut leaves or something to the pattern that she had on hers. And she didn't really elaborate on what she would do with it. I think it's kind of big for a cluster. So I decided to round my corners, the top corners, and I inked it, and it will probably just be a tuck spot on a page. just a little tuck spot. It could be sideways and tuck something in there. It could be on top and tuck something in there. So it's just a piece you can use for whatever you want. So I will round the corners on this, and I can embellish it any way I want to. I could take one of these word snippets that I made and add it on that. So these other two little pieces are word clusters. So I just took these printable words that I have in my stash, Encourage and Dream Big, and I added some paper lace, and I punched some circles, 1-inch circles, out of some scrapbook paper scraps. This one I added a little piece of this bit of edging from a vintage doily. And so you can just embellish them the way you want to. And then you have a couple of word snippets to embellish your pages. So that's pretty easy. So that whole strip there made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces, and they're really quick and easy pieces. And the last piece is 5 inches, and it should be 9 inches, but mine is 8.5. So this one is 9 inches, and this is one she did not give measurements for folding. She just said fold it the way you want to, and it would have the pattern that you're using might have something to do with how you fold it. So it doesn't really matter, since my page is a little bit shorter, it won't matter. I thought I made my flap a little bit too deep anyway, so I'm gonna just fold it whichever way I want to. Fold it up there and then make this flap a little bit smaller. And it's actually slightly taller than this one because I folded it differently. I made this flap smaller than this flap. And again, ink around it, round the corners if you want to. But don't sew it until you add your brads or whatever it is you're going to add for your closure. So I'm going to mark the center. I think I'll have the center point leaves 2.5 inches on each side. And I'm just going to have my first brad down here. And put my second brad up here. If you watched my video where I was making pockets out of my Tim Holtz wallpaper, this is exactly what we were doing. I did not bring more brads in with me, so I'm not gonna do that part, but I just put the brads in there, then took a cord, tied it around the top brad. And I could cover this up. If you have the branding strip with a decorative pattern on it, you could glue that right across there to hide that if you wanted to. And then I would put another brad right there. And then you will have the legs, the prongs of the brad right here. And as you put things in and out, it could catch on those prongs. So she put a piece of washi tape over the prongs, and that's what I did in here. But you can't see it because I already sewed it closed. So once you have it all inked and your brads are in place, you don't have to tie the string on right now. You can wait till after you sew it all together. So it's inked and the brads are on, and then I took it over to my machine and I sewed around here, and then I turned it over to sew the flap, just so the stitches would be on the prettier side of the stitches would be on the flap that you can see. So you can determine that for yourself. So the prettier side of the stitches is on this side and on this side. Because on the back side where the needle pokes out, it pokes the paper out that way. So that's the poked out side. And it's not as pretty as that side. So I think that takes care of 2 sheets of cardstock. And I got a lot of embellishments out of it. And I want to say thank you to Paper Inspirations. I forgot the lady's name. But I will link these two videos below, and you will probably find more. One of these videos was number 4. So she has at least 4. I don't know. I think she has more than that. So I'm going to check out the rest of them and see what else I can make. She has a lot of great ideas. So I hope you'll check her out and tell her I sent you if you want to. She probably doesn't know me at all, but anyway, there we go. Thanks for watching. I hope you'll give this a try, and I will see you in the next video. Have a creative day today. Bye-bye.